The next day, I got a call from HR. Assalamu alaikum, inshallah you're well guys. So today, as the title suggests, I'm going to speak about a time when I failed an assessment center, and honestly I was umming and ahhing about whether I should even speak about this, because obviously it's not my finest moment. But then I thought to myself, you know what, this was well over 10 years ago and I've grown and developed a lot since then. And obviously a lot of you will be attending assessment centers right now, so inshallah this video may be of benefit to you. But before I go into the detail, let me just cover off some background so you guys know that I was applying for apprenticeships back in year 13, so my final year of A-levels, and at that time I managed to secure an offer with PwC in their Southampton office on an audit program. And this program was great because after 4 years I'd become an ACCA qualified accountant, and to secure my place, I needed to get A-level grades of B, C, C. But then on results day, disaster struck as I completely tanked my A-levels, and just like that, PwC took away that job offer. Obviously, at the time, I was very upset. I thought my life was over. One day, I had an offer from one of the biggest accountancy firms in the world, and the next day, it was taken away from me. But I dusted myself down, and I had two options available to me. Either one, go to university, or B, take a year out, retake my A-levels and reevaluate my options. And I went for option B because I knew that even if I went to university and I completely smashed it, I did really well, got a first class honours degree, I couldn't get onto a decent graduate program because my grades at A-level simply weren't good enough. So whilst I was retaking my A-levels, I was applying to apprenticeships across finance, and alhamdulillah, I managed to do really well. I did secure a lot of interviews, but I also found myself being rejected by a small number of firms because they found out that I was retaking my A-levels. And unfortunately back then, and even now it can still happen, where a small number of firms may reject you if they find out that you retook your A-levels, BTEC, or other qualification that you've applied with. One of the interviews I managed to secure was with a firm called PKF. Now they were a top 10 firm, similar size to RSM and Smith & Williamson, but the chances are you've probably not heard of them. And the reason for that is because in 2012, they merged with BDO. So all of their offices rebranded under the BDO brand. Now I think there may be a few firms which operate internationally under PKF, but in the UK, they don't exist anymore. When I was going through the application process with PKF, I was quite confident, it was going well. I went past the online application, did the online test, passed my telephone interview, and I found myself being invited to an assessment center in Farringdon, which I think was their head office in the UK at that time. And the office was in a very nice location. I remember lots of shops nearby, lots of other nice offices, good vibes, the general hustle and bustle you get when you go into London. And maybe this overwhelmed me slightly. I was someone who wasn't very well traveled at that time. This was only the second or third time I'd been in London, and this may have stood out to me more than say someone who had grown up in London or someone who was well traveled and been to major cities. Now moving on to the assessment center, I don't remember much about the exercises, but it would have been pretty standard. So things such as your group exercise, an interview, maybe even a presentation. But then we came on to the lunch, and PKF had done really well. They had good food on offer, and they'd also invited quite a few people from the office to speak about their experiences. And this really stood out for me because they had, I think, about 10 people from trainees up to manager level, even from HR. And there were only 7 of us, or about 7 of us, attending the assessment center. This stood out because normally you would only expect a few people from the office to come and speak about their experiences, and even then at trainee level, because their experiences are more relevant to the people that are attending the assessment center. And the vibes were quite good. It was a standing lunch. Everyone was speaking to each other. The PKF employees did really well. They moved across groups. So all of us got a chance to speak to different people from PKF. This was where I made my mistake, and I didn't realize it at the time, but I definitely got too comfortable. I let my guard down, and I was trying too hard to crack a joke with people. And I remember saying something along the lines of, to a PKF employee, "Oh, you've got nice offices. You can just pop to the shops during the day." And honestly, at the time, I didn't even realize it. Sometimes you're not conscious of what you say. And I didn't even think it was a mistake, to be honest with you. If I was to say that now, I wouldn't look too much into it. And I left that assessment center feeling generally quite positive. I thought I'd done enough to secure a place, and I did the typical, you compare yourself to other candidates who had attended the assessment center, and I thought, based on that, I've done enough to secure a job offer. The next day, I got a call from HR. It was the lady who ran the assessment center, and honestly, This was one of the most awkward conversations I've ever had. She started off by giving me some general feedback about how I did on the task. I don't remember it being overly positive or negative, but then she said that she got the feedback from others present that I was unprofessional, and that's not what we're looking for. So we won't be giving you a job offer. Obviously, guys, this was a conversation that happened over 10 years ago. So I briefly summarized it, but she definitely used the word unprofessional. Now, as a 19-year-old, what are you supposed to say to that? I remember just saying, thank you very much for the opportunity and ending the call. At the age of 19, I've got no experience of working in a corporate environment. I don't know how to handle these discussions. And someone from HR is telling me that you're unprofessional. What could I have said? Even if I wanted to give feedback, I wouldn't have known how to. At the time, although I accepted the feedback, I couldn't care less. And the reason why was because money was driving 90% of my decision making. Now, that wasn't the right way of thinking, but I just wanted to secure an offer with the employer who offered the most in terms of salary. And at that time, it was the National Audit Office. Alhamdulillah, I took on that feedback, made sure I didn't come across as unprofessional again in an assessment center, and managed to secure an offer with the NAO. But upon reflection, I definitely should have cared, because as human beings, we should always strive to be the best that we can be. And clearly, in that situation, I wasn't. The second thing I learned was that accountants, like other professions, can be quite introverted. So for me to go in with that approach of being jokey, trying to make everyone laugh, crack a joke with people, wasn't probably the best approach to take when meeting someone for the first time. Now, what should you be taking away from this video? Firstly, always be prepared. Now, I may have secured a job offer based on my performance on the tasks, but I let myself down badly at lunch when I thought I wasn't being assessed. So always be prepared. Secondly, don't get too comfortable. I went in with a confident, maybe even borderline arrogant mentality where I thought I'd already secured the job offer. Remember, it's a professional environment, so don't try too hard to crack jokes or impress an interviewer. And always remember, guys, it doesn't matter what you say, it matters how the other person perceives what you said. And the final point, guys, is that there's a balance to be had. Yes, don't be arrogant, but don't be quiet either. Humility is a great trait, but if you're too humble, you may not showcase your experiences. Remember, these organizations thrive on their people, so it's important that you show that you could fit into a team and work with others. But inshallah, I'll leave it there, guys. As always, any questions or queries, please feel free to comment below or message me on Instagram.